Have you ever wondered what the difference is between angels, archangels, cherubim, and seraphim? Maybe you've heard of them, but never really understood what each one does and how they influence the spiritual world. In this video, we're going to uncover these mysteries and show you how this knowledge can transform the way you view your faith and your life. Did you know that understanding the role of these beings can help you better recognize divine signs and protections around you? If you've ever been curious about what really happens in the spiritual realm, stay with us until the end, because what you're about to learn will change your perspective forever. The Bible reveals that the spiritual realm has a well-defined order, and this is reflected in the hierarchy of angels. These heavenly beings aren't all the same. Each has specific roles and unique characteristics. At the top of this structure, we find the archangels like Michael, who leads the heavenly army in battles against the forces of evil. Angels, on the other hand, carry out a variety of missions, from delivering divine messages to protecting individuals in times of need. This diversity of roles shows us how God's plan is complex and perfectly orchestrated. To better understand this hierarchy, imagine a team with different specializations where each member has a vital role. Archangels are like the leaders of major projects, directing and overseeing important missions. Meanwhile, angels are like the team members who carry out more specific tasks, yet equally essential. In our daily lives, we can draw a parallel by observing how different people play important roles in their areas of expertise, all working in harmony to achieve a greater goal. Just like in the heavenly realm, the diversity of human talents and gifts is part of a bigger plan. The concept of hierarchy among angels teaches us about organization and purpose. It's not unlike our own lives, where each of us has a unique role to play, whether in our family, at work, or in our community. Just as angels operate at different levels and functions, we too are called to understand and fulfill our purpose. This leads us to reflect on the importance of every choice we make, because just like in heaven, everything is connected to a bigger plan that goes beyond our immediate understanding. The word angel literally means messenger, and this role is shared by all beings who serve God. They appear in the Bible as divine messengers interacting with humans at crucial moments, whether bringing good news or offering protection in times of danger. Archangels, on the other hand, hold higher authority within this hierarchy, and Michael is the only archangel mentioned by name in the Bible. He is known for his leadership in spiritual battles, especially in his fight against the forces of evil. To better understand this distinction, imagine angels as ambassadors, sent to carry out specific missions and communicate orders from a higher power. They are responsible for delivering messages directly from God, like when the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary to announce the birth of Jesus. Archangels, like Michael, are more like generals, leading and protecting during times of major spiritual confrontations. They have greater authority and often take command roles in battles happening in the unseen spiritual realm. This relationship between angels and archangels leads us to reflect on our own lives. Just as angels have distinct roles, each of us is also called to act according to our abilities and gifts. And just as archangels lead during times of crisis, sometimes we are called to lead and protect those around us in difficult times. It's interesting to note that even in their great authority, archangels remain servants of God, reminding us of the importance of humility and obedience, no matter what role we play. Cherubim are fascinating figures in the spiritual world, often depicted as the guardians of God's holiness. In the Bible, they are seen at key moments, such as when God placed them to guard the entrance to the Garden of Eden, ensuring that the tree of life remained inaccessible after man's fall. They are also described as part of the Ark of the Covenant, where their presence symbolized God's nearness to his people and the spiritual protection of his sacred covenant. Cherubim play a role of protection and reverence before God. They are described with multiple wings and eyes, indicating their ability to observe and guard in all directions. This reminds us that God's presence is always surrounded by holiness, and the cherubim represent that barrier between the divine and the human. In our daily lives, we can see a similar connection when we think about how certain boundaries or limits are necessary to protect what's most sacred to us. Sometimes we need to establish our own cherubim, guarding what is most valuable. Beyond their role as protectors, Cherubim also teach us about respecting what is sacred. Just as they guarded the holiness of God, we are called to protect and value the most important and spiritual things in our lives. This could include our faith, our relationships, and our responsibilities. They remind us that some things need to be guarded with reverence, and that certain parts of our lives require special protection to remain pure and intact. And speaking of holiness, the Seraphim, another group of angels, play an even more intimate role in worship around God's throne. Seraphim are mentioned in the Bible as the angels responsible for worshiping God without ceasing. In the book of Isaiah, they are described as beings with 6 wings flying around God's throne, continuously proclaiming His holiness with the phrase, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts." Unlike cherubim, who have more of a protective role, seraphim are dedicated solely to worship, showing that in the spiritual realm, there is a specific hierarchy even in the ways of honoring God. The seraphim remind us of the importance of constant worship and pure devotion. They have no other role but to exalt God's holiness, and this makes us reflect on how often we get distracted by life's challenges and neglect our connection with the divine. The example of the seraphim teaches us that, despite life's responsibilities, it's essential to dedicate time to worship and gratitude, keeping our faith alive. And this devotion can be expressed in many ways, whether through prayer, praise, or actions that reflect God's love in the world. Moreover, the presence of the seraphim shows us that the atmosphere around God is filled with holiness and glory. Just as they proclaim God's holiness, we are called to reflect that same holiness in our lives. They inspire us to seek spiritual purity, to distance ourselves from what distracts us from our higher purpose, and to focus on what truly matters. After all, if even the beings closest to God dedicate their entire existence to worship, how can we, in our humanity, also find ways to live a life that exalts the divine presence? And so, each role of the angels reveals a facet of the relationship between the divine and the human. Now that you've learned the differences between angels, archangels, cherubim, and seraphim, it's time to reflect. How can this knowledge influence the way you view the spiritual world around you? Can you identify ways in which these hierarchies are present in your life? Share your discoveries and reflections in the comments. Oh, and before you go, have you heard of Ezekiel's impressive vision? In our next video, we'll explore this revelation full of symbols and meanings that continue to intrigue scholars to this day. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and continue this journey of discovery.